economically because we don't understand that there are certain gates you have to protect. And maybe our inability to protect those gates just comes from the fact that these institutions that we're connected to are not really our institutions anyway. So it's really time to rethink what Black ownership really looks like anyway, what Black power and control really looks like. So of course the Chinese man didn't like me and it didn't work out. And but I just wanted you to sort of reverse the race, and I want you to ask yourself if you would ever see that in any other country. And one other rule of wealth that you really want to understand is that, is I want you to think of it like a room that's really hot, and you've got an air conditioner that you turn on. Well, if you turn on the air conditioner, are you supposed to leave the window open or the window shut? What do you do when you get in your car and you got the AC blasting? Do you leave the windows open or do you shut the windows? What do you do? You shut the windows, right? You shut the windows. Why? Well, because you're conserving energy, right? You want the cool to stay inside the car. You want to stay inside the house. Why? Well, because the air circulates. And if you leave the air conditioner on for a while and you got the window shut, then the circulation of the air will kind of make the room generally cool to the point where you can turn the air conditioner way down and still maintain the coolness, because energy is not wasted. Well, money circulates just like air. Money circulates just like the air conditioner in your car. So when money goes into your community and it starts to circulate, who told you that it makes sense to leave the window open? Well, when you leave the window open, what happens? Well, at that point, number one, all your cool air is going to go outside. It's going to leave the window, right? So you're going to be hot all the time, right? And then when the air condition shuts off, you're going to be hot again. You won't have any cool air because you won't have anything that's already circulating. And then on top of that, it's going to take a whole lot more air to keep the car cool, right? You could possibly keep it cool, but it would take twice as much air to keep it cool if the window's open as it would if the window had been shut. So effectively, when you leave the window open, when you allow anybody and everybody come and set up businesses in your community, when you go buy from anybody and everybody, when you're giving your labor to anybody and everybody, going out paying rent to anybody and everybody, then effectively what you're doing is you're minimizing your financial efficiency. You're significantly crippling yourselves, because effectively what you're doing is every nickel that comes in, you're literally throwing it out the window. And then you got to go back and beg for another nickel in order for you to sustain and survive. And then when the nickels get cut off, when the air isn't coming through the vent anymore, you're going to burn. You're going to be super hot because you don't have anything in place to keep the room cool in the first place. So your economics requires you to basically do the simple kind of almost like a financial purgatory, where you get up, you go to work, you get a dollar, you spend the dollar, and then you're broke again, and then you got to go to work to get another dollar, which means that you are dependent for life on whoever is providing that dollar. God bless you if those dollars ever stop coming, because you're done. If the government is negotiating a debt ceiling deal and they don't decide that they're going to let the government default and they're not going to pay their bills, and then 500,000 government jobs get cut, you're stuck. Well, why? Because a lot of Black people work for the government, and then they're living paycheck to paycheck from government money. I'm not making fun of anybody. A lot of you work for the government. Some of you are veterans, and again, I give, I love veterans, right? So I want to make that clear. But in all seriousness, though, I kind of want us to think about that, right? So effectively, you don't open the window when the air conditioning's on. Wealth is different from income. Income doesn't mean a lot without wealth. Income is like fertilizing the womb, but never ever having a baby, right? If all you're doing is fertilizing wombs and you never actually give birth to the child, you either abort the kids or every single time or whatever, then you're kind of like defeating the purpose of the process. You're not seeing it all the way through. Now, it doesn't mean, again, think of it like making love. It doesn't mean you always have to fertilize the egg, but at some point you have to if you want to survive to the next generation, right? So effectively, that income is your opportunity to fertilize the egg and create the real win, which is this thing called wealth. Income is supposed to be turned into wealth. Not all income becomes wealth, but some percentage of that income is supposed to become wealth. Why? Well, because income is short term, wealth is long term. Income is a flow, wealth is a stock. So income is a flow like water. They call it liquidity. Income is like water coming out of a faucet, but a stock of water is where you are pulling the bucket out and taking whatever water you don't drink right now, and you're not letting it go down the drain. You're capturing it in a bucket, and you're putting the buckets in the freezer so that if the flow ever stops, you can go to the garage and go get you some more water that you've been stocking up for a rainy day. So basically, wealth is something that has to be acquired and preserved. Um, it means that you have to find all the wealth leaks and close them the same way you close the window when the air conditioner's on. You find out your electricity bill is through the roof. Well, you start finding out, like, what's the leak here? There's a leak in this house. It's letting the air out, and that's why the electricity bill is so high. Well, you find those wealth leaks, right? You figure out, well, what in my wealth process is causing the leak that's keeping me from building the wealth that I really deserve? Why am I still living paycheck to paycheck when I shouldn't be? If not, it becomes very expensive, and you have to keep replenishing what you don't have. You get it, it's gone, got to go back get it, and it's gone. And this is cultural. This is cultural because there was a hip hop song that my friend Dr. Christopher Emden at Columbia University pointed out to me. And in this hip hop song, the lyrics were, sing along if you know the lyrics to this song. It was, I'm riding around and I'm getting it. I'm riding around and I'm getting it. I'm riding around and I'm getting it. It's mine, I spend it. It's mine, I spend it. Anybody ever heard that song? It's mine, I spend it. So if you don't think that wealth and economics is primarily cultural, then I've got a whole bunch of data that will just prove you wrong. In fact, if I had a choice, if I'm mentoring someone to build like a wealthy family, to have wealth within one generation, and I have a choice between a really stupid person that's born middle class and who just is like indoctrinated into this ridiculous culture of wasting money, versus somebody who was maybe born poor, but has a really great wealth building, wealth preservation culture, I would rather work with the poor person than the wealthy person. Right? Because in my mind, what I visualize it being like a race. One runner, it's a long, let's say it's a marathon, and one runner is 3 miles ahead of the other runner, but the runner that's behind is running at an Olympic at the pace of an Olympian. The other person that's in front is not in shape. They're running backwards. They're running in circles. They don't have any heart. They don't want to run very hard. Well, eventually, things are going to end up where they're supposed to be. So, and this is just, I guess, maybe this comes from the fact that I see the world as a mathematician. I see things in math equations sometimes. And basically, it reminds me of something in mathematics. They call it a derivative. If you're mathematically inclined, you might know about it. If not, that's okay. I'll explain it to you. All it means, and I was explaining it to my 20, well, he's 20 years old now. I don't know why I say 17-year-old. He's 20. We were in the car, and I said, what really matters is not where things are. What matters is where things are going. Like if you're in this car with me right now and you say, you're on I-65 and you're in between, Indianapolis and Louisville, that doesn't mean a whole lot if you're driving 70 miles an hour going south. Well, if you're going south, you're going to be past Louisville and you're going to be headed toward Nashville, right? You're going to be, so what matters is not so much where you are right now. Where you are right now is temporary. That's a fleeting moment. Where you're going is everything in determining where you'll end up and what you're going to ultimately be. So generally speaking, when it comes to wealth building and all that, if I'm diagnosing where someone is economically, I don't really care where you are, where you came from. I'm looking at where you're going. I'm looking at your day-to-day choices, your day-to-day habits. You see, wealth is an accumulation strategy. That's all wealth is. Wealth, if you look at wealth building 101, all wealth is it's just accumulating stuff, right? Like, for example, and it's conscious accumulation. That might be another way to kind of look at it. Conscious accumulation. So let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, you lived in a family where every time you use the bathroom, every time you use the bathroom, you got $1. Right? Imagine if you were in a family like that. And every time you peed or did number two, they put $1 in a little account for you. Like, how much money would you have now? Like, if you're by the time you're 30, if you got $1 every time you use the bathroom, how much money would you have? You'd probably have, I don't know, 365 days in a year. Let's say you go to the bathroom 3 times a day, $1,000 a year, you'd have $30,000 in the bank, right? And then if it was invested at compound interest, then it would be maybe 70, 80,000. It'd be a lot of money. You'd be very wealthy, right? But you don't do that, right? You don't accumulate, you don't sort of count how many times you go to the bathroom, you just do it. But if you imagine you did, then that accumulation process will be pretty substantial. So you're wealthy because you pee a lot, right? That's what you are. Let's just make that stupid comparison and that dumb analogy for the sake of me making this point. So you use the bathroom a lot, and that's led to you being very wealthy because you use the bathroom more than your friends, and because you eat lots of Raisin Bran and stuff, and so your stuff is flushed and clean and clear. How did you do that? Let me ask you, how did you do that? So let's say somebody comes up and they say, wow, that's really amazing. You're so wealthy because of all the time you spent in the bathroom. How did you do that? What if they were thinking something like that you just went to the bathroom a whole bunch of times, like in 1 week, like you did it all in 1 week. You went to the bathroom 40,000 times in 1 week. Like, how weird would that sound for them to think that you accumulated that many trips to the bathroom in a 1 week period? It would sound stupid. It would sound crazy. Right. But what's funny is that people look at money like that. They look at money in that same ridiculous, weird, crazy way. Warren Buffett always said, almost anybody can be wealthy if they let go of this BS idea that you're supposed to get rich fast. If you just let go of this false dream that wealth comes overnight and very quickly through a record deal or an NBA contract or winning the lottery, then what you accept and what you end up acknowledging is that wealth tends to come slow. And wealth is an accumulation process, just like accumulating the number of times you go to the bathroom over a 30-year period. Also, the reason that you accumulated so much wealth by going to the bathroom so many times is because you did it just as a regular thing. It was part of your routine, right? Or if they gave you $1 every time you sat down and ate dinner or ate a meal, period, that would be in the thousands, right? Why? Well, because every day you do it. That's part of your daily pattern, your daily habit. So what I'm asking you to do is I want you to try to sort of assess yourself. And I want you to look and ask yourself, where am I going in life? Where's my family going? And the number one way to determine where your family's going in life and wealth and in everything else is to look at what you're doing on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. We're going to pause and sit on that for a minute because I need you to really think about that. Are you investing every week like clockwork, consistently? And then not selling the stock. If you're doing that, then you're going to be very wealthy. If I call you up 10, 15 years from now, you're going to be far richer than you are right now. If I call your kids up in the year 2060, they're going to be doing better than 99.9% of all kids because they're going to be millionaires, most likely. Same thing with health, right? Are you going to the gym every day and watching what you eat? Well, then you're going to be in good shape, most likely. You're going to be, you may not be an Olympic athlete, but you're not going to be obese. You're not going to just sort of, be in a terrible shape physically, right? So figure out, what are you doing on a regular basis? That's what wealth is. Wealth is a simple, step-by-step, week-by-week accumulation process. And people that become wealthy tend to be, and I've seen a lot of B1 people that are in this condition, actually. They tend to be what David Bach calls automatic millionaires, or the very quiet millionaires, regular people, work regular jobs, just, some lady who's an accountant or something, or I'll meet somebody who, I met a lady who worked for the IRS who had a master's degree, and she had like $800,000 in her 401k. Well, why? Well, because she had a consistent accumulation process. She maxed out her 401k. She wasn't trying to go buy Gucci bags and stuff. She put her money in her 401k, and also over a 25, 30-year period, it just kept growing and growing and growing. And next thing you know, she's got this massive nest egg, right? That's where money comes from. That's where wealth comes from. So there we go. So that's one way to kind of visualize and conceptualize wealth. I want you to have economic vision so you can know where you're going. And the one other thing about capital, and about wealth and money, which is a form of capital, is that capital has to be preserved and protected, and it has to be efficiently used. And what that basically means is that a lot of people fail that most important fourth step in the wealth process. The 4 steps in the wealth process are to understand wealth and money. You'd be shocked at how many people are trying to get money but don't even know where the money is or how to obtain it. So you got to understand it. You got to know where it is. Number two, you got to make a plan, right? I don't know how people think they're going to succeed when success does not typically happen by accident. If you go along with his plan for you, then that's not a plan for success. That's a plan for some sort of assimilation or something, right? The third step of that plan is of that process is to execute the plan. Execution is big. A lot of people make plans and we don't follow through. So you got to find your process for following through. Maybe we talked earlier about therapists. I love things like accountability partners, or even they even have these like performance coaches out there, that can really just make sure you keep your promise that you made to yourself, right? Like sometimes the solution lies outside of you. Sometimes you're not enough, right? I know in many cases when I'm trying to be something better than what Boyce is, I realize Boyce is not enough to be the guy that Boyce wants to be. And it's hard to accept. But when I acknowledge that, then I say, okay, now I can go get the help I need because I've accepted that I'm not enough. The fourth piece, and this is what we're talking about here, is wealth has to be protected and preserved. 70% of all wealthy families lose all their money within one generation. 90% of all wealthy families lose their wealth within 2 generations. A lot of that is because they did not take the time to preserve the wealth that they have. Does anybody watch a show? Does anybody watch this show called Succession? How many of you give me a yes if you give me a yes if you watch this show. It's really good. It's on HBO, and basically it's about these crazy people who are all basically like taking over their dad's company, and as a result there's this big fight, and at the end of the show, which just ended, I guess they have the season finale or whatever, the father who started the company dies, and right after his death, his children lose the company. So the company gets lost literally like a few weeks after he dies. Well, this is an example where the father became super successful and he's super smart and super capable, but he didn't pass any of that on to his kids. In fact, he thought his kids were a bunch of idiots, which they kind of are in the show. But they were idiots partly because their father never taught them anything. He was so busy building his company that he didn't understand he needed to build people in addition to building organizations. If he spent as much energy building people as he'd spent building his companies, then his company would have been protected. But instead, it was lost pretty much maybe, I want to say, a few weeks after he died. Okay, so effectively, I want you to think about that when you're talking about preserving your capital, and understand that when you get money, it makes you into more of a target. People that target you, they will come to you with sob stories. They will ask you to invest in very bad business ideas, where they want you to take all the risk and put up all the money, and all they have to do is come up with the idea and take half of whatever you make. They will try to scam you, try to rob you, try to sue you, things like that. So if you don't have the ability to protect your wealth, I think Shannon Sharp, the former football player, anybody hear about that? Just not too long ago, Shannon Sharp got robbed or something. Somebody broke in his house and stole hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff. And a lot of celebrities get robbed, because they're celebrities and they show, everyone figures that they have a lot of money, and then next thing you know, things happen, right? So, so the thing about capital is that it has to be preserved, and basically preservation is any method necessary to protect that capital. Now, here's the thing about capital in terms of understanding what capital is. And this is the seventh commandment, by the way. According to Paul Samuelson, capital is, and I'm gonna read this. You may not understand it, but I'm gonna read it anyway, so we can move to a definition that I know you're all gonna understand. Paul Samuelson, a great economist, he said capital is, quote, durable produced goods that are in turn used as productive inputs for further production of goods and services. So basically, it's like stuff you use to make more stuff. That's it. That's kind of what he's saying. Like if you have chickens that make baby chickens, or if you have machines that make cars, right? So it's durable produced goods that are in turn used as productive inputs for further production. So that's kind of what it is, right? According to Adam Smith, another economist, he says capital is that part of a man's stock which he expects to afford him revenue. So basically, he's saying that capital is kind of anything you have that helps you make money. So If I deliver pizzas and make money delivering pizzas, then my capital is my car. My car is part of my capital base because I use it to make money. If I work, God forbid, a prostitute, right? If I take all this, everybody loves black men. They think black men are really sexy, and I've been working out, and they're, I'm pretty smart, and they're from what I hear, they're like these women, they call them sapiosexuals. They just think smart men are really sexy, right? So if I wanted to go and sell my goods and make $1 or $2, bring it into the household, I had to get my wife's permission. I don't think she would go for that. But if I did, then my body might be part of my capital, right? My brain might be part of my capital. Anything you use to make money is part of your capital base. And I'm kidding. I'm not going to turn to a life of prostitution. So don't be hitting me. Don't be trying to hit me in my DM. All right. So the next thing, according to Dr. Boyce Watkins, capital is a collection of resources that allow you to get what you need in order to survive and prosper. So basically, it's the way I kind of look at capital is anything that helps you get what you need, right? So if you are a farmer and you have a farm with trees and apple trees and pigs and cows and chickens and tomato plants, then you've got capital, because anytime you get hungry, you can just go to the farm and get something to eat, and then you're going to be well fed, right? So some examples of capital, here's some examples here: labor, the family cow, a name brand or reputation. Like LeBron James's name is worth probably $1 billion by now, right? He can quit playing basketball and just use that name, put his name on stuff and sell stuff. Your network, and when they say your network is your net worth, that's really true. Your network and your relationships are part of your capital base. So if you don't have financial capital, then get other types of capital, right? For a prostitute, her body might be capital, or even a basketball player, their body is part of their capital. That's why NCAA athletes might get insurance on their knees, right, in case they get hurt. I think J-Lo got insurance on her butt or something, because apparently people like that liked her butt, which I didn't understand that, because black women look so much better than she does, but whatever. Your car, skills that you have. When you go to college and get more education, you're obtaining what is called human capital. So as a human being in the workforce, you are now more valuable than you would have been otherwise. Stocks and bonds, et cetera. So you can keep going down the list. So the most important job of the quarterback, I want to ask you all in the chat, answer me in the chat. What is the most important job of a quarterback? Can anybody tell me what is the most important job of a team's quarterback? Some of you may have heard me ask that question before. What's the most important job of a quarterback? I'll give you a hint. Jalen Hurts violated that rule, and it cost the Philadelphia Eagles the Super Bowl this year. Bertha Williams says, protect the ball. Abel, protect the ball. Exactly. Their job is not to score touchdowns. Their job is not to throw passes. Their job is not to move the ball down the field. Their number one job, their most important job, is to protect the ball. Because if you don't protect the ball, then nothing else matters. If you don't protect the ball, then the team loses, period. There, exclamation point. There's no other outcome other than a loss. Right. So effectively, when you get capital, the first thing that most wealth builders are thinking about when they obtain that wealth, most banks are the biggest thing on their mind is, how do we preserve our capital base? When you saw banks that went bankrupt, like Silicon Valley Bank and the other bank in New York, I forgot, it's Signature Bank, and these other banks going bankrupt. These banks were going bankrupt because they didn't protect the ball. They had the capital base. Banks have to be well capitalized, and they didn't protect the ball. And next thing you know, they ended up going belly up, right? So effectively, protecting the ball is really important. So when you get your wealth, when you build your capital base one day, because all of y'all are going to be wealthy, I want you to remember to protect the ball. So let's keep going. So the most important job of the quarterback is to protect the ball. It's not to get the ball down the field or to score touchdowns. Is to protect the ball. So every black person does not need to run a business. I want to talk about that for a second. A lot of you think, not a lot of you, but some people think that because I talk about wealth and wealth building and everything, I'm saying that everybody needs to start a business. That is not true. Everybody doesn't need to be an entrepreneur. Everybody does not need to run a business. Some people are not equipped to run a business. Some people don't want to do it. It takes a lot of work to run a business. I'm saying that everybody should own a piece of a business. That's what I'm saying. Right? Everybody should be an owner. Everybody should have capital. You can get capital. You can own a piece of a business. You can get on your phone right now and become a business owner by getting on your phone and buying some shares of stock. I think the stock that I liked this week was Marvell, Marvell, which they think could actually be the next NVIDIA. As you saw, NVIDIA, NVIDIA, I think is going to keep going up. NVIDIA is really benefiting from all this AI stuff that's happening right now. But Marvell is another company they think could be the next NVIDIA. It's MRVL. That's the ticker. So what I did is I bought some shares in Marvell. Now I'm more deeply invested in the AI space. Now I'm a business owner in the AI space, but I already was, because I already had shares of Microsoft. I already had shares of C3.ai. I already had shares of NVIDIA, right? So effectively, remember, shareholders own the business. You own the company. You do. You just don't own the whole thing. You just own a piece of it, but you still own your piece, right? Wouldn't you rather have like 0.00001% of $1 trillion company than to have 100% of a $0 company, right? So that 0.00001% of Apple might be the thing that allows you to quit your job, right? So effectively, everybody should have a capital base, and that might come in the form of education. It might come in the form of a beautiful network, some healthy relationships with people that can help you succeed financially. It might also come in the form of real estate. It can come in the form of stock ownership. It can come in the form of participating in the business, whatever you want. Because here's the thing: if you have no capital, then that's the equivalent of being economically naked. It's and you're not just naked on the street. That's embarrassing enough, but you're economically naked, but you're naked in the middle of a battlefield. So everyone shows up for the big economic battle. Everyone's showing up with a big old sword that's like 6 feet long, and they've got all this training. They spend all this time, like the old soldiers would spend time like training with their swords, right? So they show up with all this training, these big old swords, gigantic armies with big horses, and even the horses have armor on them, and they got this full plate armor all over their body, and you're standing out in the middle of that battlefield. You don't have an army backing you up. You don't have a sword. You don't have a shield. You don't have any armor. You don't have any horse. You don't have any training. You're going to get slaughtered. You're going to get absolutely slaughtered. Slaughtered. And so my question at that point would be, as I see you sitting out there freezing and butt naked in the middle of a battlefield with no preparation whatsoever, my first question is like, who did that to you? Who sent you? Who even told you that this makes sense? Who told you that was okay? Who's the person who didn't do their job of getting you ready for the big battle? Because now that you're stuck and you're in the middle of this battlefield, everyone else has got armor and a shield and swords and horses and everything else, and you're naked. Well, then the only way you can survive is by going to one side or the other and begging them to take you in as a slave. And because you have no leverage, you have no negotiating power. All you can do is say, hey, I can help you, and I can do any degrading, humiliating thing you need me to do. Just help me survive, please. So when you don't have capital, you become a slave to capitalism. You are hearing this from a person who is an expert on capitalism. I'm an expert on economics. I studied finance at a level you cannot possibly imagine. I'm telling you that when you show up in capitalism and you have no capital, you are done. So the biggest thing you can do for yourself and for your family and for your kids is to really think carefully about things like capital development, identifying the capital that you have, capital preservation, growing the capital that you have, aligning with other people that have various forms of capital. I'm not just talking about money. I'm not just talking about property and stock. It could literally be choosing a good wife who's bringing hard work to the table and loyalty, or a good husband who's bringing some education to the table and a work ethic to the table, or good values to the table, right? It could be your kids, right? It could be your family members, right? These are your natural allies. This is your army. You're supposed to be going to war with this army. So don't show up to the battlefield naked. It doesn't work out well. And if you don't believe me, look around. Just look around you. Look at how many Black people, and I'm gonna have to stop talking soon because my nose is stopped up and my voice is going away. So I need to chill out. Look at how many Black people you see that are literally in the middle of nothing less than just complete total economic misery. Look at how many Black people you see that are just stressed out over money on a regular basis, don't know what to do next, don't have any help, right? It never ends. It's very painful. And if you're one of those people, my heart goes out to you, and I'm not here to ridicule you at all. I'm not here shaming you. I don't want you to work. I don't want you to waste any energy feeling bad about the choices that you might have made. Don't feel bad about that. The only thing I want you to feel bad about is not taking corrective action immediately. If you don't do that, now that I've kind of talked you through some of this, and I hope, give me a yes if you're getting what I'm saying, if you're understanding where I'm coming from. The only thing I want you to be mad about is I want you to be mad next week if you heard all this and took no corrective action. That's the only thing I'm giving you permission to be mad about. Everything else, man, the past is the past. We're Black. It's hard. A lot of people don't know the stuff that we know, right? I got lucky. I chose to get a doctorate in finance. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was just going to get a good job. I didn't understand I'd be learning the keys to what I think are the keys to the universe. I was like, wait a minute, this whole racism thing, it gets easier to deal with when you got money in the bank, right? So effectively, I want to see you wealthy. I want to see you succeed. And that's why I'm yelling at you right now. And I hope that that's okay. I hope that this benefits you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking because we've been talking for about an hour and 40 minutes. And my voice is getting a little bit hoarse. And so I'm going to answer a few questions for you guys. And then we can bounce on out. Just a reminder for everybody, if you go to boycewatkins.com, there's lots of stuff there. We talked about AI stocks. I have a list of AI stocks that I bought that you can grab if you want to take a look and see some of the AI stocks that I really like. Also, if you want to get your kids into our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program, there should be a link, or you can just go to blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. Chanel can put that link in the chat so you guys can take a look at that. Any way we can help you in your journey, just let us know. We'll be glad to support you. And I think Chanel has that link to that financial anxiety workbook with Dr. Alicia. As you know, she's, as a therapist, we decided to create that Black financial therapy department in the Black Business School, which is really rare. I don't know if anybody else has ever done anything like that. And we did that because we realized that a lot of our people have just gone through some stuff and that you have some things to work through. And in order for you to work through those things, you have to understand that this is as much a psychological and cultural battle as it is an economic battle. So that link to the financial therapy workbook, Chanel will put it in the chat for you if you want to take a look at that. All right, so let me answer some of your questions. Okay, so does the Black Business School offer any courses on obtaining grants? I can't remember, Chanel, did we have something on grants, or was it? Yeah, what was the we had a sister who, yeah, Chanel said yes. See, Chanel's smart. I'm telling you, you got to work with other smart people because Chanel knows what's going on in the school. And I can't remember her name, but there is a sister who does something on grant writing. And Chanel's going to get the link and put it in the Zoom for you guys, so you can take a look at that. And what I'm going to do is, okay, so I hope that this discussion was helpful to you. I hope that this sort of helps your thinking in some of these areas. What we'll do is we're going to do another session. We'll just pick back up and finish with this very, very soon. And if you're looking to have sort of more material that you can go through, like if you want to just keep going after this conversation, just go ahead and log in at theblackbusinessschool.com. And there should be tons of stuff in there that you could take a look at that will get you where you want to get to. I'm not going to guide you wrong. This is stuff. And the cool thing that I love about this, and this is why I think that this is just literally our secret weapon. This is going to be our trump card, like for the next 50 years. Is I'm excited about it because I know for a fact that the stuff that we talk about here, this is not just, let's help Black people kind of catch up with everybody else. This is not remedial stuff. This is advanced, cutting edge stuff. And some of it's stuff that I didn't put in any textbook because I designed it for you. And I'm qualified to do that. That's what professors can do. We don't read the books, we write them. So effectively, I think that for Black people to really accumulate wealth in this society and accumulate power in this society, we have to rewrite books. We have to write our own book, right? Go by our own code, our own approach, because I don't think that the approaches that exist that are out there are designed for us based on the specifics of what we have to deal with and overcome. And also, we can leverage our superpowers in various ways that I don't think other people can. So don't see yourself as some disabled or handicapped group of people. You're not handicapped at all. I think you're advantaged in a lot of ways. You just have to find a way to make sure that you see that. So I'm going to get on out of here. And by the way, if you want to learn more about the convention, it is going to be in Atlanta. We're working on that today. You can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. And Chanel can put that link in the chat. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. We're going to be in Atlanta October 20th at the Marriott Marquis Hotel. So I hope you guys will come to the convention and hang out with us. I would love to meet you in person. And I'm going to be doing something in Illinois pretty soon. And I'll send out an email about that. I think it's like June 15th, an event for JJ Conway. And then I'll be at the Juneteenth event in Atlanta coming up, and a few other things. I can't remember everything that's happening, but yeah, I'll keep you guys informed. So have a good night, everybody. And I enjoyed talking to you very much. And I really hope that you gained something from this conversation. I love you, and I will see you all very, very soon. And Rashad said I'm there every year. I can't wait to see you in person, Rashad and Abel and everybody else. Have a good night. See y'all soon. Bye.